I'm ready.
Hello, Alexa.
Hello, Kylie.
Hello. This is going to be an interesting one, I think. Because Alexa, for our listeners, is not only my publisher and book guru, she's a true friend. We talk most days. She's my sister from another mister, southern sister from another mister. And I'm sure today we will be so much like finding so much about like surrounding yourself with the right people, shall we say. So yeah. Alexa, I know everything about you, obviously. Just tell everyone what you do and what you're all about.
So I'm Alexa, otherwise known as Alexa 2, although I don't know if I should be Alexa 2. This will be explained later, no doubt. I am the owner of the Book Refinery and of a self-publishing company called Compass Publishing UK. I help people basically get their heads out of their head and into print. And I was working more in the sort of corporate business sector. And then I'm sort of moving much more in the direction of children's books and other fiction. And it was through working with my very good friend and co-host of my writing group, Alexa Tewksbury, otherwise known as Alexa 1. And that is basically how I came across Kylie, was because Alexa 1 was editing Kylie's book. And I know she'll tell the story of how that came about, because that wasn't a simple journey. And then Alexa said, I've got this amazing lady who's got this book about this amazing character called Inkcap, and she needs help with publishing. And that's how we got to meet. You got in touch with me. You said you had this book. I said I could help. And the rest is history, really, I guess.
It is. And I might go into some detail about the whole, how I came into the situation, but it's about you, Alexa. This is about you. And you've just answered one of the questions, to be fair, was like, how did our paths cross? And I think what's important here is, like, when I say southern sister, right, how far down south are you? Considering this,
I'm not Southport, like you keep saying I am. I am Portsmouth, which is pretty south. I mean, Cornwall's obviously further south, but Portsmouth's the end of the line. And yeah, so I'm pretty south. I'm Portsmouth, yes. So about what? I think we worked it out to be about 420 miles away from you.
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. Isn't it crazy though how somebody who lives that far away and you can build this connection with?
Absolutely. And I think this is what is extraordinary with the lounge. I obviously met you through this publishing project, which was right up my street. Loved it. We got chatting on the phone, and you mentioned in one of our conversations, it certainly wasn't the first or the second or the third, it was sort of mentioned, oh, I have this group called the Northern Lass Lounge, which, I didn't really pay much attention to be fair. Anyway, I joined it and I wasn't very active in the group because, as the label said, the Northern Lass Lounge, and I didn't ever consider myself a Northern Lass. So I kind of, I was in the group, but I wasn't really paying much attention. And then as we became stronger friends, and we were talking daily throughout your book project, you said, well, Lex, I keep mentioning this in the Northern Lass Lounge, or I keep mentioning this. And then I kind of sort of took notice of this fabulous group that you had created. And regardless that I'm not Northern Lass, I'm adopted Northern Lass for sure. I then became a lot more involved in the group, and I was posting relevant stuff to the group to sort of help people. And do you know what? It's the genuine. I was listening to Lozamak's podcast yesterday, and you asked her the question of what makes the lounge so unique. And it is, for me, the genuine tribe of women who want to see other women succeed. And I've never seen that before. And I've been members of many groups, and I've never seen that. It's the complete, genuine, I've got your back. If you need help, come here.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I was paying attention to the lounge that I started to see my business evolve in a different direction. Like, we've got a ton of authors in that group now. Your ability of being able to connect the right people to the right people, and your genuine desire to see people succeed. And we've now sprouted this amazing group of budding authors. And I think our collaboration is getting stronger.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting far reaching. And it's making, you know, you talk about ripples making waves. I mean, you're making tsunamis in a good way of all things authory. And, you know, you've inspired me. This isn't a podcast where I'm like, you know, all bow down to Kylie, but it's truly this lounge has transformed my life in terms of my business was fairly successful, but it's even more successful now because I've got my branding on point, things I wasn't really paying attention to, and it's now really all coming together. And yeah, it's far reaching.
I feel as if you've like took me points that I've written down and just
condensed them all into one paragraph.
I was going to ask you about how you felt about the. I mean, I know how you feel about the lounge, right?
Yeah.
And you actually joined in December the 9th, 2020.
Did I? Wow.
Just before, this must have been like right at the point when Incap Book 1 was coming out.
Yes.
It was about that date, wasn't it? So
it was.
I don't know whether it's because you'll have seen the community of people who were like around us at that time when we both.
I think it was more you saying you got to get yourself in the lounge. Come on, mate, what you doing?
What you doing, mate? But there is that thing, isn't there? Like, it's called the Northern Lass Lounge, right? And it always has been, and it always will be. But it's like, does that put people off? Or you tell us, does that put people off? Do you think from initially coming into it?
I mean, obviously, it's interesting because my partner lives in Manchester, which for me is north. I know that's south for you, that's middling, that's Midlands for you, but to me, that's north. I grew up in Cornwall. Anything further north than the Watford Gap to me is the north. So to answer your question, did it put me off? No. Did I think I was your target audience? I didn't think I was, because I'm not northern. However, I've got this affinity with the north, obviously with my life partner in Manchester, which is north for me. And as soon as I joined and got to know the group, I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be. But I think that prerequisite, as you said, your target audience, which is a massive part of, you've got to know who your target audience is the Northeast. Yeah. So you couldn't call it anything else. No. Why would you call it, you know, unless you wanted to go completely, you know, the Great British Lass Lounge? It just doesn't have the right ring, does it, really?
But it's quite like eye-opening when you see how many people join the lounge who say, I'm not northern, but
yes,
and yes. Like we do, and you're very, very, you're right when you're saying that is our ideal client. That's who we niche into, and yeah. I believe on about ideal client all the time. Yeah. So even though if your connection is that strong with your northern ideal client, the rest of the people will come.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look how it's transpired, like Alexa One that we probably will mention at some stage. Yeah. You know, she's even further south than me. She's Devon, right? Now she's joined the group and she's becoming a lot more involved in the group now. And look at the ripples that are happening with her, right? So I think it's this whole community, and this is what your number one thing was when you talk about it a lot when you made this group. You wanted a place of community, and that's exactly what you built, a place of community, and that has many ripples affecting many people. So if it puts some people off, then they're not right for the group, right? So I guess
just interested in all your thoughts on that. Just one more thing about the lounge before we go right back and talk about your life and all sorts, Alexa.
Yeah.
So I made a team of people around us, didn't I? You were initially part of that team because we kind of knew we had this connection, we had very similar interests, creativity, you know, when you just
our background, I mean, even though our background's different, our life experiences actually are very similar, which is nuts to think about it, but we have very similar.
Whoa. So you were originally in my team.
Yeah, I was.
Talk to me about why you decided to step away.
Because I realized, even though I knew there were going to be monumental things happening with the team, and I loved being part of the team, and I felt honored. Like, I've really felt honored to be part of the team, because I know the potential, and I know what's going to happen to these people who are in the team. But it all comes down to ideal client, right? My journey, I know, is going in a slightly different direction. Like, my skill set is different, and my skill set is the creative, it's the supportive, and my business is now taking off, like, completely. I'm fully booked now pretty much until November. I've got 3-4 projects happening in the new year, and I knew I wouldn't be able to bring my best self to what's going on, because it's massive. So that's when I said to you, do you know what, Kylie, I've actually realized I still want to be part of your what you're doing online, and actually I'm much better suited for your other group that you've got, the Secret World of Mushroom Marvelous Magic, the Secret World.
You can't get it in
Mushroom Marvelous, right? which is where it all started, right? That was where it all started for you. And I knew I was such a much better fit for that group to help you with that, because it's the creative side, it's where the authory stuff is happening. And I just knew, do you know what? Instead of being in the Northern Lass Lounge, I want to actually be in that group. I want to be an admin in that group. And so I had that conversation with you. I was dreading it, because I was like, I didn't want to let you down, but I was like, but I also knew you'd totally understand. And so I've just shifted sideways, which is great, and it works brilliantly.
It does. I think it was absolutely the right decision to make. You know,
absolutely.
When we talked, I was like, it makes total sense, and we'll always be in each other's lives anyway.
Exactly. So so it's a really good match. I think that I'm now helping you over in the Secret Mushroom group, and it just fits my skill set, obviously.
So going back to when we said our paths crossed, and I remember having this conversation with you about how I felt a bit intimidated by it. I don't know whether it was the way you spoke, or I don't know what it was.
I get that quite a bit for people first.
It's the whole publisher side of it. I think there's like this persona, isn't there, or there's a belief. I don't know where it comes from, because I had no experience of dealing with publishers, but do you think there's a kind of persona that is?
I think publishing, first of all, right, as Lozamak was saying in her episode, and if you haven't listened to it, do go and listen to it, because it really kind of explains her viewpoint of this whole, the publishing world, the publishing side of things. And I think people view publishing as this, and it is this status of mystery and intrigue, and it's not quite there for me. And God, being a published author has a really sort of high level acclaim to it, right? I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
If you say you're a published author, people kind of give you a second look and go, wow.
Yeah.
However, in the past 10 years, probably 5 actually, to be more accurate, self-publishing has completely taken off. Companies like Amazon and Ingram have allowed people to be able to self-publish. Now, I don't distinguish between a published author. To me, is a published author. If your book is in the British Library, which all people who have a registered ISBN, that's the number that's on the back of the book, the little barcode, all people who have a registered one of those by law has to have their book in the British Library. So if your book is in the British Library as a catalogue version, you're a published author, regardless how you've done it. Now, having said that, there are also a lot of crappy books out there, which has kind of muddied the water. And I think this is why people who have self-published sort of have this slight duality feel about, well, am I published? Am I not? Am I considered published just because I've self-published? And I just say, look, listen, if you've been able to bring to the table a high quality, properly produced, professionally cover design, edited, published, and you're selling the book and changing the people's lives who are reading it, does it matter how you published your book?
No,
doesn't matter.
Because I remember that when I first started deciding to write a book 2 years ago, and I thought I have to go to a big publisher. I have to, what you have to do. I didn't have a clue, I didn't have a scoop of what I was doing. And you know what it is? I've kind of fell in love with self-publishing. I have. And we talked about this the other day, didn't we? Because things are starting to happen now off the back of all the that I've put in. Like, there's a level of control you've got.
Absolutely. There's pros and cons with publishing, traditional publishing versus self-publishing. I've written a blog post that some people might find useful. So if you want to have it for your show notes, you can. And that is, if you're going to go down the traditional route, first of all, you have to apply to many people, and you have to know who the agent is, because you can't just go to the publishers direct. You have to go through an agent, and you have to basically target the right agent for your category of book. And it's all about knowing your target audience, because if you don't know who your target reader is, you then won't know who your target agent is. You then have that whole control issue, right? Because if a publisher then comes along and says, I really love your book, and they're going to offer you a whack of money, what they are then going to do with your character, they might go, right, well, we like this guy and we like this guy, but we don't like this guy, or we want to change this guy, or we were now going to expect you to write a book a year for the next 10 years, right? So suddenly your wonderful creation that you've got might go down an avenue that actually you don't want it to go down. Whereas with the self-publishing route, I feel it not only shows determination, you're putting your money where your mouth is because it's your money, and you can take it exactly in whatever direction you want to take it. So all hail self-published authors who have done it properly, because you know what, as you were saying, it's hard graft, it's relentless.
It is.
It's relentless, but look at, like, just take your journey, for instance. Look how many schools you're going into. Now, if you were traditionally published, would they allow you to do that? There might be something in the contract that says you can't.
It's like the illustrating as well. Could I illustrate for other people?
Exactly.
Don't know.
Exactly. So
if a big fat wedge of 6 figures comes along
with a cartoon and a film and a Christmas feature every year, you know,
I'd have to see.
Would you say yes? You'd have to think. But you know, I've actually helped many people self-published who were actually published traditionally,
right,
who have been dropped.
Really?
They're not making enough money.
I did not know this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you haven't always wanted to publish books. You never went, I am going to be a publisher of books.
Oh my God, I fell into it completely. Absolutely, completely fell into this. I was working. My background is retail, so waitressing, restaurant managing, and Starbucks, basically, which is where I got my love for coffee. And it was when I was working at a Starbucks, I was managing a Starbucks in Canterbury, in Kent, where I was living at the time, having trained and worked in Starbucks in Canada, because I lived over there for 10 years. Anyway, came back, needed a job. Starbucks were just opening up. I applied for a job there, got it, worked my way up to manager. And we had a regular customer that would come in twice a day for 2 venti cappuccinos. And I tell you what, if anyone's done baristering, they know how hard it is to foam milk that much for venti cappuccinos, and he liked it dry as well, which means even more foam. And he used to come in, talk to me, I would make his cappuccinos for him. But what I didn't realize, what he was also doing was he was watching me behind, like how I was talking to the staff, how I was conducting myself. And after about 8 months of coming in, he offered me a job. He was in publishing, and I went for an interview. I mean, it wasn't really an interview. I went for coffee, and he gave me a job. And I then got into this marketing. That's what he did. He did publishing and marketing. And one of the key things he told his clients to do was to write a book to show off your expertise. Mm-hmm. And that's what he did. And that's what he showed me how to help him with his publications, which is what I did. And then I realized when we went to one of his seminars and a client of his came up with a very, very obviously self-published book and said, "I've done it, Paul. I've written my book. Here it is." And you could see Paul's face was like, this book, bless it, had been published in Word. It was not a good looking book, but he'd done it, right? It was then that I had this big light bulb appear on the top of my head. And I went, do you know what? I could help business owners write books to show off their expertise. And that really, really like lit a fire under me, because it was creative. Mm-hmm. And I got to learn how to do typesetting and cover design. And that's how the Book Refinery was born.
Did you have to study? Did you do a course or anything, or did you learn it?
So I did A-level art, as we know. Like we've got that commonality of art, which I loved. I was going to go to Falmouth Art School and do a degree in get my foundation in art, but that didn't happen. I ended up sailing the Atlantic and sailing to Canada, basically.
Yeah.
And so art always fascinated me. So when I was working with Paul, he was teaching me design software, which I loved because it was another way of showing my creativity. So have I studied it? No. Have I studied it from afar and getting it right and getting it wrong? Absolutely. Like, cover design is something that you learn, and I'm still learning now. Like I'm still learning now, right? But it's something that I love to do. And especially in the children's book genre, that your creativity is just, it's like certainly working with you, when we come to create a cover, like with Laura's cover, like we visualized exactly the same cover. It was weird. So I'm self-taught, but I'm still learning, because I don't think there's ever a point where you can say, I know it all. Just like with you, with illustrating, you won't get to a point where you're like, I know everything about illustration.
You're always learning, aren't you? And for anyone who's listening at home here, I'm just standing up because I'm going to grab one of my books. I think one of the most special things that you get from Alexa is our attention to detail, and the ideas that you come up with, and I just go, yes, man, yes. So this is my second book, In Cap and the Blight of the Bonnet, and I'm just looking through, and it's the little things like
well, with that one, it was the dandelion, wasn't it? I mean, for the first book, I definitely saw the chapter heads with a little picture, and I was like, Kylie, for the chapter heads, right? I didn't want just the plain chapter heads. I was like, can you whip us up some little, like, I think I went on iStock and managed to find some little mushroom, little thingies, right? And I placed them in your test pages. And I was like, do you think you could whip up some little mushies for your chapter heads? And you're like, well, of course. So you came up with I think you came up with 5 little mushy things. Yeah. So anyone that's got the book, you'll see each chapter head has these lovely little mushroom details. And then I think for the second book, the genius that was when you showed me that gorgeous dandelion head.
I'm just going to show the people who are watching on YouTube and on our membership.
And then I was like, you know what? I got an idea with this. And then that's
was it an idea? Ooh.
And then we got this idea of this little seedling floating all the way through the book. And then at the end, the empty seed head.
Yes, because there is a very poignant reason why.
Yes.
the dandelions in there, but you'll have to read the book to find out. But it was like, it's just these little things that I see Alexa do that makes your skills stand out from other people. And I love what you've started doing on your books now on the back. So tell people what you've started. And it's like
so we're going to have this one obviously for your one. So if I can show you roundabout rabbits for those so this is the where's the actual book? Hang on, let me see if I can find the book. Sorry,
I'm still jealous that you've got a copy of Roundabout Rabbits and I haven't, by the way.
Right, well, I've got the proof cover here.
Yeah.
Because that's all very the proof cover is just as exciting as the regular cover. So I always get printed proofs of my books just to make sure that everything is as it should do, because what you see on screen versus what you see printed out is, you know, can change. So what I'm now doing, and I have done this for a couple of others, but I think this is now going to be my little signature.
Definitely, it's genius.
So Kylie, for the illustrations of this book, is just amazing. So this is the Roundabout Rabbits. This is the proof cover, by the way, so you can see where the cut marks are. And there are there's a part of the story where it basically involves some rats, which was one of my favorite illustrations. So on the back, I've put a little rat on the ISBN box, and he's just so cute. Look at him. So now what I'm going to do is, I think for all books, especially that you and I work on, I think we're going to have this little feature on the ISBN where there's a little something from the book that we can put on the ISBN. And then with Catherine's, we've those little shoes that you've got bursting out of a I think he's in a tube with the little feet dangling. I decided to have that on the back of Catherine's ISBN box.
So for people who don't know what an ISBN is.
Oh yes, it's this.
For people who are listening who can't see.
Oh yes, so the ISBN is it's the International Standard Book Number. And it is a set of numbers that are given to your book. It's almost like a registration plate, basically. Right. It is to identify your book when you register it with Nielsen's, who are the UK place where I get my ISBNs from. You can only get them from Nielsen's. And then they turn into a barcode so that you can put on the back of the book. And then when you scan this code, whatever you've registered with Nielsen's, all the information, so title, author, how much it costs, etc., is in that barcode. Now, a lot of people, when they publish a book, I like to have a nice ISBN box like this to look profesh. But if you notice on lots of other books, they don't bother with that. They just have an ISBN. Let me show you. So for instance, this notebook here, I mean, this is Penguin. Look how basic that is, right?
Yeah.
Compared to mine, it just looks
well snazzy. Yes.
I just think it looks more professional. There you go.
It does.
So there you go.
So you've said to me once, I think this is a really important thing that you said to me once, right? You actually rang us after I went live in my group. And this is like how things can impact other things, and what you're working on can kind of snowball. And like what you said as well, because I talked about physical income from book sales, right? So I was kind of looking at what I was getting in return for physical books. Okay.
Yes.
And I think I said something like,
oh, I haven't even broken even yet. Something.
Yeah. So
and I was like, excuse me. I was like, really? Let's have a little think about this, shall we?
Tell the listeners what you told me.
So obviously selling your book is, as we have already understood, is, you know, relentless. Now, most people, if you're only going to get 100 books printed, obviously that's going to cost you X amount of money.
Yeah.
And it usually means your book is going to be around the £2, £3 per book to print. Right? That doesn't include how much you've spent on editing or on the cover or on the typesetting. So by the end of the day, your book has probably cost you around the £5 mark to bring to print. Well, if you're selling it for $6.99, it's going to take a long time for you to recoup your money.
Yeah.
Right? That's called earning money on the front end sales of your book.
Yeah.
It's going to take a long time. You're going to have to sell a lot of books to recoup your money. Where you make your money is all the other stuff that you do.
Yeah.
So from your book that you've done, your 2 books that you've done, what have you now got on the tail end of that? So tell us, Kylie, what have you got from the tail end of that?
It's just phenomenal. And like, before I came onto this, I did a bit of research and I found out that the average self-published author earns around £1,000 a year. That's on average, right?
Right. Yeah.
From their physical books.
From the front end sale of their books. Yeah.
And I think what I've done differently, and what you've constantly told us along the way, is I've shared my journey.
Yeah.
And I've kind of took people on this journey with us of writing a book, publishing a book. So you're talking families who are interested in the characters, you're talking people who are potentially wanting to write a book. And I've created a community. And the stuff that's happened off the back of it, but the core of it is I've written a book, right? I've written a book. Yeah. But now, I mean, I'll go.
Well, three, going on 4, right? Going on 4.
I'm going into schools now, so that's a lot of income. People are wanting support, like one-to-one support about stuff.
Your illustration career, I mean, let's look at that. Let's look at that.
I'm like booked out till, because I've got about 5 or 6 who are going to be ongoing clients, because they've got book 1, book 2, but they've got like series of books. So I'm booked out to illustrating up until 2025.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that none of that would have happened if I hadn't written a book. Yeah.
So if you look at your back end sales, which is what I call it, right? It's the sort of corporate term, the back end sales of what your book then can do for you. And this is where my business knowledge massively comes into play, because I help also business owners write books for lead generation. And that means writing a book that then encourages the reader to spend more money with the author. And I know one chap that I helped with writing his book. He went to secure a 25 grand deal with a corporation purely based on the fact that he'd written a book.
Crikey.
Look at Helen Morton in my Reluctant Writers Facebook group.
Yeah.
She got her job based on the fact that she wrote her book, right? So people revere authors, and they don't ask, are you self-published or traditionally published? That never comes up in conversation. If you hand them a book that looks professional, and that's what I pride myself on doing, is making your book look professional, no one even questions it. But what they do see is that you're an author. And when you have that status, as I've said many times, quotes all over my Insta feed, all the rest of it, nothing positions you higher than author status. Nothing, I don't think.
I like that.
And I would say it's transformed your life. I would say it's transforming Laura's life. I would say it's transformed Jodie's life. All these people I've helped have are transforming their lives because of this particular thing that they are releasing. And it's like the magic. And that little bit that I shared in the lounge about the new introduction that I've got for my children's book that I'm writing at the moment.
Yeah.
Storytelling is magical.
Yeah.
And the influence you have on the children that read your story can be far reaching, as you are you're seeing this when you go into schools.
I
think, and never underestimate that, because it's powerful.
When you mentioned it to us, you were like, stop thinking about the actual physical books, and I went, oh God, you're so right. Like all of these things that have happened because of that. I think some people think that I've always wanted to write a book. I haven't always wanted to write a book, but it's kind of made us realize how important reading books.
Yes.
So when I was, this is the type of stuff I share when I go into schools. it's not about my book when I go into schools. It's about getting them to believe that they can achieve anything, because I've done it. Like little old me sat in my studio here, I've done it. So anyone can. And I talk to them now about a book that changed my life. I'm not going to ask you this question, actually. Is there a book that changed? So the book that's definitely changed my life has to be The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I don't think I would be as creative as I am if it wasn't for that book. So that's why it's important for kids to start reading. So let's flip that back to you, though.
Oh gosh, a book that's changed my life. I'm going to be do you know what? I often quip about this, and I don't mean this to be self-serving. I love books growing up as a child. I was a reader. I loved reading. I read ferociously now. I've always got a book on the go. I can't not. And I love the way books make me feel, and I get frustrated when books let me down, and I can lose myself in books. I can get sad. I mean, I read a fantastic book called Where the Crawdads Sing. I can never pronounce the right title, Crawdads Sing or something like that. I was crying at the end of the book, like that's how they affect me. Crying. But I'm going to be a little bit. I'm going to say egotistical. The book that's changed my life is my book.
Yes, get in. Come on, tell us about your book.
Because it's putting my money where my mouth is. It's showing my expertise, and it has got me in front of people that I would have never have got in the front of people before. And only to help them then serve other people by getting their book out. So this isn't saying, oh, well, my book's that brilliant. What I'm saying is it's a conduit to then let other people reach their purpose. And I want to bring us onto this really important point, especially with your journey. And I might get emotional because I always do when I talk about this.
I'm waiting for the tears, like I have to say.
But your purpose is to influence kids.
Bless her. I knew she would cry. But
it's when you get that, when you get your purpose, when you find your purpose, and I put something about it. I wrote something about it in your secret mushroom group called it's the Japanese expression of ikigai. It's like when everything comes together. So your passion, your ability, the need, and what you can make a living out of all come together in that little circle. And that's what you found. That's your purpose. And my purpose is to help people express themselves through books. So I'm going to say my book is the one that's changed my life.
Fabulous. And talking about how your businesses is definitely developing and going in a different direction, and we're not doing magical things. Let's talk about, because we want to tap into some social media stuff here.
Yes, definitely.
Tell me about how your group, The Reluctant Writer, has changed.
Well, it's interesting because I think you were apprehensive. It comes right back. It comes full circle from the beginning of the interview when you said you were apprehensive about chatting to me, because you'd done your due diligence, right? You'd looked me up. You'd seen me on LinkedIn. I don't know if you saw my Facebook or not, probably, knowing you, because you're very good at that. And you probably saw a very corporate, right? Alexa Whitten, owner and director of the Book Refinery.
It came across very corporate.
Very corporate, because that's my background, right? That's my background. And when I joined the Northern Lass Lounge, I think that was the biggest revelation for me, like the biggest piece of business growth I've learned, and I'm now continuing that, is right. Corporate had its place 10 years ago, right? Actually, it's all about now people buy from people and be you. Right? Now, I like to think of myself as corporate, but actually, if you look at my little office, do you know what I mean?
I've met your mate, right?
I'm not corporate.
Not corporate at all.
So I was spending a lot of time over on LinkedIn, because that's where you go and hang out when you're in that kind of, in that field. And actually, LinkedIn is having a revolution of not being the corporate stuffy place anymore. It's a lot more be yourself, be who you want to be. So I had a very failing, not very active Facebook group called the Reluctant Writers. And I didn't know what to do with it. It was just there. And I didn't know the power of groups and community until I sort of joined the Northern Lass Lounge. And then I saw what an opportunity I had. And the training, obviously, on the lounge, which I joined, Facebook group training, which was brilliant. And I've now got this amazing group from your lessons. And often I'll phone you going, wow, what do I do? What do I do? And you're brilliant at it. And I feel now I'm a lot more me. I'm a lot more approachable, I think. I'm a lot more like, people will approach me without that fear of, oh my God, you know, it's very corporate. I've taken that now over to LinkedIn as well. And yeah, my group is definitely growing, but it's also maintaining the quality. And because I've done some snooping on other writers' groups, and I have to say the engagement in mine is really good.
Brilliant. It is. It's because it's not a huge group, is it?
No, it's very small.
And that's absolutely fine. In fact, it's probably perfect, because you've got all of these people together now who are supporting each other, and people who are wanting to write a book and wanting, like, what you're doing now, where you've just talked about Helen, and you're giving them spotlights, aren't you? Where they're coming in. And so what made you do that? Like, why was it important for you to do that?
Because I think it was a conversation I had with you where I was asking people to go and review other people's books, because reviews, listeners, take heed. Anybody you know who's gone and written a book, honestly, one of the best ways you can support them is go and write a review. On all the places. Everywhere. Like, honestly, you have no idea how positively that affects us, right? You know that even with the Lounge podcast, like, you always say, please go rate and review us. It makes a massive difference. So if you're listening to this and you know a self-published author, go review their books, right? And so I wanted to encourage that in the group. And so I was like, right, I'm going to list everyone that's got a book, everyone go and review their book. And you were like, I don't really feel comfortable about doing this if I haven't actually read the book. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point, actually. But that's why I decided to do a spotlight. So every sort of 4 to 6 weeks, from the list of all the people that are published in the group, I pick a name. And for that 6 weeks, I basically allow them to become an admin of the group. And they don't spam the group by any stretch of the imagination, but we focus on that book. We get the author to read out bits, let them tell them about their journey. They have a spotlight day where they take over the group and come and do a live. And that way, people then are encouraged to go and buy each other's books, which I think is always great, and then to go and leave reviews, etc. But it was doing it in a more genuine way. And you did hit the nail on the head when you were like, I don't mind going and leaving reviews for books, but if I haven't read them, I feel a bit disingenuous. And I'm like, oh, opportunity here. So that's why we've got the book spotlight. And I think it works really, really well. We're getting to know everyone and then in the group. It's great.
It is. I think hats off, Alexa, like how much that has really turned into a community. Like it's been brilliant to watch. And this is like, I know you mentioned about as my purpose is to inspire children. I think I'm here to share and just, I get a proper buzz when I see stuff like that happening. And this is just from things that I'm sharing because I've done it myself.
I mean, I had no clue. And I knew I was missing a big piece. Now, you see, you've taken how you've sold your book through Facebook and your group is now obviously something that I tell people to go and watch your journey so that they can learn from you. I don't get involved in the marketing aspect of my authors purely because you've paid me up front to help you with your self-publishing journey. But because I don't take a percentage of your sales, I don't really get involved in the marketing side of things, whereas I know the way you've done it works really well. So I just tell people to go and, you know, look at what you've done, take the bits that could work for them so they do the same thing. And I mean, look at what's happening. It's amazing. It's everyone is taking your advice, watching you, your journey. And also you massively help people with their buying journey. You know, like, look at what happened with World Book Day. You took that, ran with it, gave us a platform. There was 9 of us, and we all came together and we had a whole day where we took over Facebook on the 25th anniversary of World Book Day, and we had a massive impact with what happened there, you know. So we brought your skill set, which is very unique in the fact that you love community, you are an extrovert, you love to help people, push them in the spotlight, whether they like it or not, because you have to, right? You kind of have to. Shy bands getting out, as you say, right?
Oh, I love that.
It's so true. Shy bands getting out.
I mean, think about, I remember when I first saw you go live and I just went, why isn't she doing this all the time? And I like, some people just don't have the confidence to do it. We know that, but you're fine.
Oh, I'm like you. I'm a little bit narcissistic when it comes to put me in front of a camera. Absolutely. I don't mind.
Is there any kind of guidance you can give somebody who's really struggling with going live?
Practice. And like I said to Alexa One, the lovely Alexa Tewkesbury, now we have to give her a big shout out, because if it wasn't for Alexa Tewkesbury, you and I wouldn't be sitting having this conversation.
Well, tell us about the Alexa 1 and 2 situation.
Well, I'll just, so what I said to Alexa Tewkesbury, because she, oh my God, she's amazing in terms of, you wait till you hear her narrate stories. She's great.
I am going to get her on here, by the way.
She struggles with going, like, she has this going live, doesn't like, it's out of her comfort zone. She doesn't like to do it. So my one piece of advice is, when you go live, right, first of all, you just get over yourself, because get out of your own way, basically. Like, what you have to say could really help someone. Mm-hmm. So if you take your ego out of that equation and go, this isn't about me, this is about people who are listening, suddenly it kind of turns it on its head, right? And just pretend you're chatting to your best friend. Mm-hmm. Just pretend you're talking to one person. And if it goes wrong, doesn't matter. You laugh it off, like I did when I thought someone from Washington was from the state.
I have to tell you this, listeners.
Oh God, I don't know my northern
Alexa was live and somebody came on and she was like, oh, where are people from? There's people coming on. And someone went, Washington. And she was like, whoa, what's the time like over there? And I was like, mate, no, it's like up the road from me, Washington.
But you know, I laughed it off. I made a big joke out of it, and I even did a post about it. You know, like Alexa has this ability of being like completely natural, but like
she drops things,
chicken glasses somewhere, and it was just.
So this is what I'm saying. Like, when you make a mistake like that, it can make you. It can make the fact that she dropped her notes, right? And the way her little mannerisms are in it. If anyone wants to go and see this, if you go to my page, The Magical World of Mushroom Marvelous, and scroll back through the live videos, you're looking for Alexa Tewkesbury. She did an amazing piece where she talked about, and look at what it's going to do for her, because we've all recognised that she's brilliant at reading stories.
Yeah, she is. And so my piece of advice is, number one, and you can actually put this against getting your story out of your head as well, right? And Loza talked about this on her podcast, right? She got out of her own way, and she, as she called it, got her big girl pants on, and she shared her story, right? And look at what's happened by her sharing her story, you know? So it's like, get out of your own way. I had my book sitting on my hard drive for 4 years, and someone told me to get out of my own way and publish the thing. And I was scared. I've been there. I was scared. I've been there. And the same goes for lives. You just have to imagine you're speaking to your best friend.
Mhm.
Don't worry about who's watching and who's not. A lot of people catch up on replay. And just what you have to say could change someone's life. And I know that sounds glib, but it's true. So don't be selfish.
I like it. You owe it to the world to
You owe it to the world. And you do. Like, be more Seth. Hello. The phenomenon of hashtag be more Seth.
Alexa, I don't think you've mentioned what your book's called. What's it called?
Right. So publish your, oh God, one of my children's books just fallen on the floor. Publish Your Way to More Clients. It's the first one. And then the second one, which I am updating because it needs much updating, is this one, which is called How to Create a Picture Storybook. This is now going to be much more extensive, and I'm rewriting it as we speak. But this is the one that helps basically get your head out of your head and into print. Now, Alexa Tewkesbury, we do need to just very briefly just give her thanks of nod. Thanks of nod of thanks.
Works for me.
Because basically it was her really that got us, you and me, in touch.
It was. And this is where Alexa, I can't believe that I came up with Alexa 1 and Alexa 2. I thought that was something that was already in place. But when No,
because you couldn't, you were struggling with which Alexa did what.
Like, first of all, Alexa isn't a common name, right? So how the hell you've got Alexa 1 and Alexa 2 working on children's books, and then my Alexa in the house is ganning off every 5 minutes. When I'm going live, people are going, will you stop saying Alexa?
Like Amazon, as much as I hate them for creating an Alexa, actually has probably skyrocketed our name in terms of, like, we make a joke out of it now, right? So you were getting really frustrated because you kept not remembering which Alexa did what. So you said Alexa 1 was your Alexa Tewkesbury because she was the first Alexa you got in touch with, and then Alexa 2 was me. But isn't it funny? And then I had this image in my head of Dr. Seuss's Thing 1 and Thing 2. So I surprised you, didn't I, when we turned up in a t-shirt with Thing 1 and Thing 2. Oh, we did chuckle. But and Alexa and I, we co-run the group, the Reluctant Writers Group, and we also co-run a podcast as well.
You do. So, get that in there. What's the podcast?
The Pen to Published podcast, all things writing. So, and we've had you as our first guest on episode 8. So yeah, if you want to hear Kylie talk about her book journey.
I mean, it's filled with like really practical advice, isn't it? It's
really, basically, if you just don't understand, you've got an idea. So if you're at that stage where you just have an idea for a book, but you're really not sure of what to do next, go and start with series 1, and it talks you all the way through everything.
Cool. Can we talk about LinkedIn? Because you're a bit of a genius on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yes.
And I just fanny about.
You post and leave.
I do. Because I can't be bothered, because I've got
just to cover all bases. You post and you leave.
It seems to be something. I've just had another podcast interview with somebody, and she's a virtual assistant, Claire, and she was just saying how much it's starting to become a really key platform for businesses.
It is. So LinkedIn originally was a platform where recruiters would go to find people jobs, basically. I don't know when it was established. I don't have that information to hand, but it was a pretty stuffy corporate, soulless place where recruiters hung out, basically. But it has seen a massive shift in its approach, I would say, in the last 2 years, as recently as that. And I've been using LinkedIn on and off for, since I started my business, which was back in 2008. So I've been on LinkedIn for a fairly long period of time. But I was also falling into the corporate trap, obviously, of being quite stuffy and quite, And then I noticed I started doing these really interesting posts about, this is before I met you, way before I met you, BK, as I like to say, before Kylie. And BK. And I wrote these interesting articles all about like where exclamation marks came from, where the question mark came from, where the ampersand came from, all of that. And it really interested people and kind of put my profile kind of on the map. And people were like, you know, going, actually, you know, this girl who says that she's all things book, she's got something to say. And I was getting lots of followers, and I'm now almost at 6,000 followers on LinkedIn. I don't know how many connections, that's just followers. I don't know how many connections I've got. I think
what does that mean, connections? What does that mean?
So you can have either connections, you can have connections which obviously are then automatically become followers,
right.
Or you can set your profile that the default setting is just followers, and then they have to hunt under the hood to actually be connected to you. So you can have people just literally following your stream, but you're not connected one-on-one. And that's the better place to be. You want lots of followers, but you don't necessarily want millions of connections. It's just a way of keeping your feed nice and tidy, because obviously the more followers you've got, the more people are looking at your content, but they're not actually, it's almost like they can see your YouTube channel, right? But they're not actually in the room with you. So the connections are people who are in the room with you, whereas your followers are just watching you on the screen. Does that make sense?
I think so. Well, the fact that it's gone through and connected with lots of people is probably the wrong thing to do.
No, it's absolutely fine, because a connection then allows you then to go and message someone. It is a deeper connection. But obviously, if you want to seem, I hate the term influencer because I don't like it. I don't like influencer. But if you kind of want to be seen as someone who's in the know, then obviously you're going to want lots of followers, obviously. But it's all about your ideal client at the end of the day. Like Loza Max said, it doesn't matter if you've got 10,000 followers. If they aren't your target audience, then what's the point? Anyway, LinkedIn is a place now where I'm really getting good traction. Genuinely, most of my posts that I do get lots of eyeballs on them, which is great. And I get lots of connectivity and a lot of comments and likes. And I decided off the cuff to put, I just received my third cold call.
I was going to ask you about this one.
Yeah, so I just put the phone down to my third cold call of the day, and I went, oh, really angers me. I hate cold calls. So I went on LinkedIn, I went, cold calling. Who thinks it works?
Right, you want to see what happened?
325,000 views, almost 1,000 comments.
Did you have to go and respond to them all?
Well, to begin with, I was, but then I was just like, this is going to be a full time.
Yeah.
Like my my LinkedIn went, I want to say I broke. I want to say I broke it. Like I've never seen any, like even with the gurus of LinkedIn, of which there are many, and some really good ones as well, for sure, like really good ones. And I'm going to say, if you want to really show someone how to be themselves, go follow Leah Turner. Yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Like talk about anti-corporate. She's just incredible.
Yeah.
I don't think she's even got a post like what mine did. But anyway, so yeah, I like LinkedIn. I'm never not going to go there. And do you know what? Some people say really zero in on like one platform that you're good at. And I'm going to actually say that can be dangerous. I think you need to be spread over 2 or 3 platforms, and also get yourself a list or somewhere where you know where people are, because if the internet goes down or a platform leaves and you've got all your eggs in one basket, that's you done toast.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it's important to have, I always say about 3, like the power of 3 business. Yes. So have 3 platforms. You can absolutely lean into one, lean into it, you know, and learn it, get your strategy going.
Absolutely.
You're right. Like, imagine if everyone was just on Facebook, and then Facebook.
Well, look what happened to when Facebook, when was it? It was about 3 months ago, Facebook. Facebook went down, which then takes down Instagram, right? And then, I mean, Twitter was brilliant. It was like, hello, everybody. How are you all? But it's true. Like, if that doesn't show us the power of don't put all your eggs in one basket. And also, I would definitely say, if you're writing a children's book, right, put all your socials in the back of your book, number one. But if you've got a website, which I would always say is a good thing to have, make sure you're collecting who's buying your book through your website. Because like I said, if Facebook goes down or LinkedIn goes down, and that's what you're relying on for your income, you want to know who's bought your book, so that when you do have book 2 come out, if everything else is gone, you've still got a way of contacting those people.
Yeah, that was one of the first things you said to me, wasn't it? You were like, you need to get a
landing page.
Something.
Yeah, something.
Because I didn't realize how quickly my book was going to take off, and then I was all of a sudden managing hundreds of payments through Messenger, and I was like, what did I kind of sort? So I quickly got that set up, didn't I?
Yeah. So, you definitely have revolutionized my way of thinking of how you can market your book through Facebook and Facebook groups. And we've now seen that that's a really good platform to do it on. But I would definitely say, make sure you've got a landing page where people can go and buy your book. Don't just sell it through Facebook with a PayPal button, because you need this data. I know it sounds very dry and boring, but you need the data. So if you've got a landing page where people can put in their email addresses, then that just makes sense for other stuff that you've got coming up. You've got another avenue of being able to tell people how to get in touch with you.
So let's do this part of the podcast.
Yes.
It's called Why I Lass.
Why I?
Where I have the team who have written down some questions, and I've said it'll be about anything.
Yes, all right then.
Is there anyone who you're a bit scared of getting a...
No, not at all. No.
She's not bothered, are you?
No.
Right then. Oh, it looks like a big one. I think it could be Phelpsy. It is Phelpsy, because she writes War and Peace.
Actually, she's coming and doing a guest spot in my group about imposter syndrome.
Get in, Phelpsy. So, as you are now an honorary Northern lass,
I am.
What Northern word or phrase do you now use that you didn't before?
Ben. Knee bother. I almost sent my mum a Mother's Day card.
Did you?
And what's the crack?
Yes.
Knee bother. Obviously, knee bother and mint. But all of those definitely.
Class. Yeah. So I want to end this on a high, right? Because next week you're coming up, Alexa. Woo. And you're now becoming part of the furniture with our book launches. So you came up. We've got next week. We've got Roundabout Rabbits. So Mark and Lisa Cryer are launching their book.
Yep.
What does it mean to you that you're there and you feel part of it?
Oh, do you know what? It's really interesting, because you and I have had a conversation yesterday about stuff, and I've lived all over the world. My dad was in the army, so I've traveled. Like, I was born in Germany, I lived in Cornwall, lived in the Middle East, emigrated to Canada. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've lived everywhere. And I came back from Canada, lived in London, lived in Kent, and now I'm in Portsmouth. Now, when I first moved to Portsmouth, I was like, my God, this really feels like it's like I feel really home here in Portsmouth. I don't know why. No affinity to Portsmouth other than my son's dad is here, and I just wanted my son to be next to my dad, next to his dad.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's interesting, because now, obviously, my partner is from Manchester, which is, for me, really north. And obviously, I've now met you girls, you lasses, and I just feel like I'm obviously an adopted northerner.
You don't
seriously, I feel like it. And I'm coming up next week, and I feel like, well, I'm going to go see the lasses. And when I went to Canada, I was in your hoodie lots of, yeah, obviously I'm not in it. I'm in George
I
today.
can't believe you haven't got the hoodie
No,
on.
I'm in I Believe in Me. I'm in George today.
Yeah.
Because, you know, some days you need I Believe in Me.
You do.
And I live in your Northern Lass Lounge. Obviously, I have my hoodies as well. Just a quick plug there about I have merch too.
Yes,
and I've got the hashtag, you know, the Northern Lass Lounge. And I was getting asked about this when I was in Canada.
Lasses Who Lounge.
Lasses Who Lounge. And I was trying to explain this phenomenon. And it's unique and it's amazing. And I feel like I'm part of a tribe. Like, I know that sounds so cliche, like find your tribe, but I have. And I found it up north, and I feel like I'm an adopted sister, and I love it. And you guys are my guys now, right?
Right. Yay.
And watch this space is all I'm gonna say.
No, so I cannot wait for next week. We're probably going to get extremely drunk at some point.
Probably. Not as bad as I was in Leeds. The next day was best. But anyway. We
all went down to Leeds, didn't we, with a couple of authors.
We did.
Well, I'm just going to say, like, watch this space. Was what's going to happen with our author community, because it's just so special. It's so magical what's happening, and you know, the world is just. And
I think from this sense of community and from your passion and drive of sharing your knowledge, and you know, you've set this possibility of this amazing collaboration that we've talked about of supporting children's authors, especially in the Northeast, to get their books into big, I mean, you know, look at you and Laura now in 7 stories, you know, that will probably be followed by the others. Cries, I can see their story, and you know, everything. And the lovely thing about you, and I'm going to end it on you, without you this wouldn't be happening. You know, you genuinely want people to succeed, and you genuinely, if you find success, the first thing you think about is how you can get other people the same success. And that's rare.
Bless you. Alexa, where can we find you?
So if you're thinking of writing a book, then do come over to the Reluctant Writers Facebook group. If your Facebook's not your thing, I am over on Instagram and Facebook as The Book Refinery. And if you're on LinkedIn, I'm under Alexa Whitten.
Awesome. I'll also put your website on there as well.
Thank you. I am on Twitter as your book coach. I'm like you with LinkedIn. I'm like that with Twitter.
You'll get there.
I'm kind of, you know, dealing with Twitter. It's not my place. I don't particularly like it, but I am there under your book coach. But yeah, LinkedIn really, and Facebook and Insta and the group.
Awesome. Well, that has been amazing. We've actually talked for over an hour, Alexa.
Well, it feels like 10 minutes, but I'm not really surprised.
But thank you. It's been brilliant.
Well, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.